it's Gwen and I'm back today with another scrapbooking process video. Today's share is episode 2 in the Challenge Me, Challenge You series that I am doing with Sue Plum. Today I'll be working with Coco Vanilla Studio These Days collection and I'm going to scrapbook this photo of Caitlin. Now, challenge items. Number 1, I challenged Sue to use chipboard frames. I have a bunch of these in my stash. Really wanted to get some onto layout, so that was my item that I gave Sue. And Sue and many of you, thank you very much, suggested for me black splatters. Okay, I've got this. Black splatters it is. So I've jumped into my stash and I did find 3 options with supplies that I have. The first one is that Shimmers paint. It's probably more grey than black. Second option is Distress Oxide. And third option is this watercolour palette that did have a black colour in it. I also pulled, who even am I, a couple of stencils. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do here, so I just pulled out a couple. And I did pull out a couple of watercolour brushes. Now, some of you probably would just jump on into the layout at this point, but not me. No, I just wanted to have a little play, get a bit of a feel for the brushes that I have and the supplies that I have, and make a bit of a decision about what exactly I'm going to do. So I did try all 3 of my brushes and I found that I think this one was the one that I really liked, the shape of the splatters and how much control I had over them when I was applying them. And that's really important to me. I really don't like messy. If I could hand draw on my own splatters, I probably would. But we're doing this today. This is Challenge Me, Challenge You, and we're jumping out of our comfort zone. And this is me doing that in a way that's still very me. Okay, so I had a little test run of everything. I had at this point already excluded the shimmers because I felt like it was cheating. I didn't feel like it was black enough. It is quite grey, that mist, and I did want to genuinely put black splatters on my page for you guys. But I am going to end up using it with this stencil here. I do have a plan for the page in terms of the layout. And I know for me that adding black splatters at the end was just never going to happen. That just blows my mind how the girls do that. There was no way. So what I thought was I will do all of my splattering and messy stuff right at the beginning. And that way, if it all goes pear-shaped because I'm super inexperienced, it's okay. I'll just grab another piece of white cardstock and start over. And I didn't even need to. This was my first go with this stencil and with this paintbrush. And I actually really like how it turned out, which is crazy to me. I have also very purposefully left in all of this footage so that you can see exactly what I've done. So the mist went through the stencil first. Then I've just placed Distress Oxide onto that stamp block and added some water, mixed that in to make it more liquidy, and then very slowly and very carefully added my splatters. I do like, I will pick it up and show you in a moment, partly where the stencil was, it was still a bit wet. So instead of the splatters sort of staying splatters, it did kind of blend into the mist. And I do like how that looks. I did find though, like at that point, that it needed a little bit more mist through the mask there. So I did add that. And then I've also added, to try and keep it sort of contained and a bit Gwen-like, I did add some stitching around the bordered edge where the stencil ends. Now I did that for a couple of reasons. Let's be real. First up, I like things in boxes. I like straight lines. I like squares. I like neat and tidy. And I felt like it added a little bit of an element, a neat and tidy element to that messy mixed media. But also, I wanted to replicate sort of the same feel as I was going for with the frames. I actually only had 3 frames. These are super old ones. I want to say they're from Teresa Collins, like 2000s, in the 2000s, 20 years ago. And I had 3 left. I've got a box of frames in my stash here just to use up. And there was 3 of them. And I thought it could be a good way to have the frames down the left-hand side of the layout and then the stitched frame with my photo on the right-hand side of the layout. I want to mention here too that because I don't add black splatters to my layouts very often, I really didn't want it to be really obvious that that's what this challenge was about. I wanted it to feel still like a very Gwen page. I wanted to stay really consistent with my scrapbooking vibe. So thing is, I knew this collection here from Coco had these black titles in them, and when I was on the design team I created a lot of layouts with it, but I don't believe I ever used one of the black titles. And it's a lovely soft flowy font. And I also knew that I had this photo was black and white. That was on purpose as well. And I knew that it had quite a lot of dark section in it. So you see Katie's top there, it's quite dark. And I just thought between the dark top in the photo and the black and white part, and then that black scripty font and the splatters, that would kind of pull everything together, but still make it look, make it feel like, oh, I've just added black splatters for the sake of adding black splatters. I wanted it to feel like a Gwen page, and I think that it does. And I wanted it to seem like it was all very purposeful. I hope that makes sense. Things are getting serious because I am gluing stuff down. I've got my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive out. It's great see how the frames are going over the top of the stitching? It's really good for that because it works really well over fabric as well as paper. And I've just lined those up in a way that sort of, if you drew a line around the outside of that whole internal shape, it's got lots of interesting edges. So see how nothing lines up? The top frame there doesn't line up with the stitching. The side frame on the left there does not line up with the other frame. So everything's staggered and everything makes an interesting shape around the entire outside edge. I did pop a little bit of foam under some of the photo just to keep it at the same level as the frames. And it's going to go in the center there. The one thing I would probably change if I was going to do this page again was I could have possibly had a little bit more of that mixed media showing. I do end up covering up a little bit of it, and I feel like that just sort of comes down to a bit more experience, like knowing how much to put on and how far to extend it. I don't like the mixed media for my pages where it extends out really far. I like it to feel quite close to the embellishment clusters. So I did err on the side of probably less than more. And I do love how it turned out. And I feel like I hope you think that I ticked the box because I feel like I did. So moving on to my clusters, I am going to go with a bit of a visual triangle, and I'm really using the frames to help me anchor them. I really just fussy cut out a bunch of the florals from this collection. Many of these ones came from the pattern. There's a pattern paper in the collection that's full of florals. I just sat down and fussy cut out a bunch of those. I am going to mix in a couple of the floral pieces from the ephemera pack, but what I am going to do is fussy cut around that white section around the edge. Normally I don't bother with that, but because I was mixing them with the fussy cut florals from the pattern paper, I kind of wanted you to be able to not tell which is which. I wanted them to blend together. So the white edges sort of made those other ones stand out. So I am going to get rid of those. I'm going to position the title here. I do love these foam sort of sentiments. I love that that's the title just done. And they do go on quite easily, even though they're quite long and a little bit flimsy. The stickiness to them is not super high tack, which is great because you want to be able to sort of position it and have a little bit of a wiggle if it's not quite perfectly straight. You want to be able to adjust it, and some of the ones are not like that. So I do like that I can sort of tweak this one as I go. You can also see here that I've found a butterfly. That is a different pattern paper from this collection, and again, I've just fussy cut that out. I am going to find a couple more later on in the layout as well. And that's going to really help with this visual triangle, and it's going to help lead the eye around the page. I do find that when I repeat elements in my clusters, that it really helps the layout come together. So what I'm going to do in this case is make sure that there's a large floral die cut of some type, so either from the pattern paper or the one here that's from the ephemera pack. I'm going to also include a little leaf sprig that I have fussy cut out. And then later on, I'm also going to add to make sure that there's a butterfly at 3 points around the page. And those repeated elements and those 3 points that the eye can rest on will really help like the flow of the page, but it'll also make it feel like everything's sort of meant to be, because that's what we're going for. We're going for this feel that it's sort of like natural and that it all just magically landed on the page, but it's all very strategic and it's all designed to help the eye flow around the layout. I'm also thinking about the colors. So you'll see how the yellow and the peach, I'm trying to balance that around the page so that all the yellow items are not all together and all the peach items are not all together. They're kind of balanced out left to right. Oh, that's right. And one of those butterflies had just the smallest amount of its left wing missing. So I really wanted to just use 3 of the same butterfly around the layout, but I couldn't do that because I'd run out of butterflies. So I did mix in one that was probably a little more pink than peach. Worked out totally fine. I'm also going to add here some of the type sentiments. I think I only end up with 2 or 3. Again, just trying to balance out. I think I ended up with 2 because I have that sentiment on the left there that says bloom. So I'm counting that as 1. And then the 2 type sentiments are the other 2 to make 3. And as it happens, I had 3 of the epoxy flare button things left in this collection. So all 3 are going to go on this layout, and that's going to add a lovely textural element to these clusters. I do also off camera add in a couple of black leaf sprigs. They're the same texture as my title. And you'll see in the close-up images, I felt like it just needed a little bit of extra pop of black. Who even am I? But you'll see those in the close-ups. And I'm going to call this layout done. Thanks so much for being here, my creative friends. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions for Challenge Me, Challenge You, leave them in the comments below and I will try my very best. Be sure to pop past Sue Plum's channel. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye!